Hello, hello. Hi,
Hello,
Angie. How are you? Hi,
fine. How are you?
Connie. Good to see you all. Hi, Joe in the chat. Hi, Nisha. Awesome. Good to see you all. Hey, we ready for today? Don't know if you've had a long weekend or not, but we're gonna jump in today and learn about group classes. So I've seen quite a few people in the Facebook group asking and questioning about how to get started with group classes. So there's quite a lot of content inside the course around group classes. And I've talked a little bit about it in the past. So really, I think what I'll do really today is go through some of that content with you and we can just unpack it, have a discussion, and then apply it to you guys and your niche. Okay, so let's just quickly look into the course. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so it's module 8, scale with group classes. So we've got quite a few lessons here. Can I just see a show of hands? Who has gone through these lessons? Has anyone gone through? So Angie's gone through some of the lessons. Connie's gone through some of the lessons. Joe in the chat, I don't know if you've gone through some of these lessons. Okay. But yeah, I think basically what I'm hoping to do is you guys have got a kind of an idea, a concept of group classes. So maybe we can just do some discussion and then look at applying it for you. Oh, Kerry's joining us today. Hello, Kerry. Okay, so are you ready to scale like crazy? So group classes is the secret sauce in becoming a high paying tutor, because if you can get 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 kids in a class and they're all paying you, below one-on-one pricing, but you are collectively earning a lot more, this is really valuable for you. So I know Kerry's here looking to learn how to do some group classes. It's great to have you, Kerry. Yay. So what I thought I'd do is there is a holiday coming up, a school holiday coming up. And I remember distinctly starting my first group class for holiday courses. And I have a certain structure that I've chosen to use for my business, which you're of course welcome to copy. There's lots of different structures, as I mentioned in the course. But the structure that I use is I wait until there's a holiday period coming up. And then I launch with a holiday-based group class, because parents are often looking for additional things to happen during the holidays. Sometimes, like if they're part of maybe school activities, then they don't run over the holidays. So there's also a bit more time. The other reason I started group classes is my one-on-one schedule was actually full, but during the holiday when the kids were not at school, I suddenly had more hours to play with, which is when I started launching a group class, because then they were at home and their parents were looking for them to learn and to do something in the mornings or early afternoons when they used to be in schools. So what I think I'll do is I'm just going to explain how I did it. And then we can unpack different ways and look at your niche and think about how you guys can do it. So I've done a lot of group classes with my 11 plus students. Now I've got ongoing classes, so that this one actually isn't the best to learn with. This one's a good and this again is a template for you to use, which is inside the Zero to Hero spreadsheet and inside the course. So what I used to do, especially when I started, is I would do these holiday courses. And in fact, for April, the school holidays coming up, I'm thinking to do a creative writing one based on a book like Narnia. So I'm gonna actually be doing one in the upcoming April holidays, Easter holidays for the UK students that I'm with. So maybe we could think about our niche and think about maybe a relevant group class that you can do. So, okay, so what I would do is I'd put out this flyer, and instead of it being weekly at the same time each week, because it's in a school holiday, I'm doing it for 5 consecutive days. And I'm doing it at the same time for 5 consecutive days. I've just realized I spelled that wrong. So I would do creative writing or comprehension courses. It would be 5 lessons long, and we would meet at the same time every day over the holidays. And so I would basically put this out everywhere and try and get students to join me for that. The other thing I would do is I would put it out on my email list. And the other thing that you can do, which we've learned about now, is growing your email list with a lead magnet. So maybe you can do a lead magnet that relates to a holiday course. So your lead magnet could obviously be the first lesson on Monday is for free. So you can do this huge, big trial class. Everyone joins on Monday. And if they like it, they can join for the rest of the week. Or you could do other free lead magnets like, hey, I'm doing creative writing or comprehension course in the holidays. If you want a holiday packet to keep your students busy over the holidays with some comprehension or creative writing based activities, let me know, send me your email, and I'll send them to you. So not only are you collecting their email to put on your email list, you're also then sending them a holiday packet to keep them busy in the holidays. And the thing is, they are your perfect students, because if parents want them to stay busy in the holidays with learning for me, it's the 11 plus exams, then they're my perfect student, because I know that they have got free time to learn, so they should be coming to my classes. So that would be a really easy lead magnet for me to be then, well, join my course in the holidays. Okay, so I've got this. I'm just going to unpack, like, this is one that I've got. I have chosen a star student here. I've got a beautiful, nice picture of me. I've got a little bit about me as a qualified teacher. I've got my contact information. I haven't put my phone number here. And the reason that I don't put my phone number is for my 11 plus students. My phone number is actually an American number. And a lot of parents get put off if they see that I've got an American phone number, because they're like, oh, are you going to teach my child American English? And I'm like, no, I'm still English. I'm still British, just because I live in America. So I would say if you are, say, in the UK and you're focusing on British kids, don't feel shy to put your phone number here. If you're teaching American kids and you're in America and you've got an American phone number, don't feel shy. For me, I just prefer not to. So then, yeah, you've got to pick a good time that works for you, a good time that's going to work for your audience, and you've got to think of a 5-lesson course that you can run consecutively. So I know that we've all got different niches here. I know Kerry does science. Tatiana, you're doing English specifically for Uruguayan. So maybe you want to look at, like, in Uruguay, if you're teaching kids, are you teaching adults or kids, Tatiana? Adults. Adults. Okay, so it might be a bit different for you. This is specific. I do it specifically for kids in school holidays. You can also do this as a 5-week consecutive course. There's no problem in that. Okay, because with adults, I don't know if you would want to do like an intensive 5 days, like they might be busy. So you can still do this as a weekly course, like week 1, week 2, week 3. But for me, with kids in school holidays, I find that this model works really well to get your first group class launched. All right, let's just have a quick look at some other things in the course to go through. So
I just wanted to let you know that I'm also focused longer term. I'm focused on China as well.
yes. Okay. So do it in a Chinese school holiday. The only Chinese school holiday that maybe is a bit trickier is the Chinese New Year school holiday, because kids typically leave their homes and they go to their grandparents' homes in that school holiday period. So you can do it. And some kids still ask for extra lessons, but a lot of people switch off totally. So like the next Chinese holiday would be a good time to maybe focus on that. So let's just look at your niches. Sorry, I didn't get around to that. Kerry's doing science. So Tatiana doing adults. Angie, Joe, Connie, what are your niches? Just remind me again. Is it for the KET exams, the PET exams? Christine's here as well. Sorry, I didn't see you. I've got a few others. Oh, I've got lots of others. Sorry, I didn't see you. I'm going to change my Zoom. Okay, so let's just have a look at your niches. Maybe write it in the chat. Good to see some of the people here who are asking about group classes. Neil, I saw you were asking in the Facebook group. Okay, I can see in the chat some people. All right, so for exams, a really good one would be maybe like 5-day intensive exam prep with past papers, with vocabulary specifically, and you can even be like Cambridge English tests official curriculum. Because remember, we looked through that curriculum. If you're going to prepare them over a long period of time, then you need a bigger curriculum to kind of get their English to the next level, because it takes about 1 or 2 years to get them from, you know, KET to PET to first for schools. But if you're wanting to just prepare them like an intensive time to prepare them for an exam, using past papers, familiarizing themselves with the exam format, doing a past paper. I know that some teachers also offer services like marking, like a mock exam. Even in the 11 plus, it's very common where you can say, I will prepare you for 4 days or whatever. And on the 5th day, we do a mock exam together. You can send that to me for marking. Okay, I know that's a lot, but then just, you know, make sure if you are marking and you're absorbing that time into the prices, and you can make it optional, or you could say, you know, the parents can mark it too. But I would say, like, if you're doing exam prep, doing like a mock paper would be really good to see, you know, what level they're on. Okay, phonics and beginners. So Angie, maybe you could do, if it's over 5 days and you've only got 5 lessons to do a short course in a holiday time, maybe you could do something like a theme, like animals, like phonics and animals, you know, and have like, or go jungle explorers, because you want it to be exciting for the kids, or ocean. The other thing with young kids is like themes around, you know, famous Disney movies, like Frozen for girls is a big one. It could be like Mickey and Minnie Mouse. I mean, I've got a 2-year-old who's obsessed with Minnie Mouse. So those could be like some themes that you can think about, make it really fun. And we're going to talk about curriculum just now, because when you're creating like a short course like that, you have to find curriculum to use, or you need to come up with curriculum like from places like TWE to put that together. Okay, Connie saying business adults, but looking for the IELTS. So I mean, you can also do 5-week a 5-week IELTS intensive, like prepare you for the IELTS, or you could do something like IELTS exam prep, mock past papers and mock exam with Connie. Okay, so you could do like 4 weeks of just preparing. Maybe you could go through each section, reading, writing, listening, speaking. And the last one, you literally are using a past paper and you're going through it with them. You could give them the opportunity to do that. You know, this is where you're kind of thinking creatively for your niche, like what is going to serve them best. Okay, so Joe's saying that KET exam, the 11 plus exam. So the 11 plus is similar to me. Okay, fantastic. So the 11 plus, if you're doing English, like creative writing courses, like write a story with me over 5 days would be really cool. That's actually something I'm looking to do. Or study a book with me for 5 days. So I'm also looking to do like the Chronicles of Narnia. I really like that book for young students, and read and study that over 5 days. The KET exams, it's similar. Like it could be like test prep for the KET, do a past paper, practice the vocabulary with me, something like that, especially if it's exam based. So with my 11 plus, I've also done things like I've done unpacking 4 different concepts, and then I'll do a mock paper with them. So for like comprehension, I would unpack 4 pieces of literature, and on the last day we would unpack like what would a past paper look like with and I'd find a past paper that might have questions that are similar to what we've covered. So I might see there's a past paper on I'm trying to think of a book, maybe The Black Beauty, and it's based on a concept in Black Beauty on day 5 or whatever, and it's an exam paper. You know, I could find Black Beauty as a book and do themes around that, learning around that. They've read the book, and then the past paper's got an extract from that exam. So those are all things that I've played around with the 11 plus. Let's just have a look. Anyone else? IELTS reading and listening. So Neil, you could do like intensive reading prep, or increase your reading with like 5 main skills. With my comprehension courses for my 11 plus, there are skills that I teach them. So I teach them things like inference skills. I teach so like for like reading, and this would be the same with you, Neil. So inference, I might do reading skills like prediction. So you read it and you've got to predict what might happen next based on, what's in the story. I use Vipers, so that's vocabulary, inference, prediction. E is explain, R is retrieve, and S is summarize. So these are some of the skills that you could be like, learn my top tips and tricks for passing the reading with IELTS. That will increase your band from 6.5 to 7.5 in a 5-week course. So you've just got to think like, what is going to serve your niche the best? Does that make sense, Neil? And I just said reading, you would do that similarly for listening. So for listening, you might want to say note taking. You might want to say highlighting, or, well, I guess you don't highlight when you listen. Note taking, you might want to, note taking is really a good one. I'm trying to think of the other listening skills. But, skills that will help them, particularly for that. As well as obviously practicing. I know Christine mentioned that she's also focused on listening. So I think TWE is really an important one for doing on-the-fly listening activities that you can create into a course. I really love TWE for listening. And then I know that I've used the off to class IELTS listening section. They do things like you look at a map and you've got to listen to instructions and you follow it along. So I've done that with my IELTS students. So if you haven't used off to class, it's like $8 for a month. You could literally use that for maybe a 5-week course when you're planning to do it. So it's a month subscription. If you do it over, 5 weeks, that could be a really good solution because it's got some great materials on there. IGCSE Maths, Carla, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think like study tips to pass the X exam, whatever that exam is. So with maths, I'm a total flop with maths, I'm sorry. But maybe you could find like specific issues. Let me find some of my other flyers, because some of them I actually focus on specific issues that I solve in my group classes. So for a 5-week course, I'm saying exactly what is in those lessons that'll help you to increase. So, I mentioned I teach Vipers. I like literally unpack that on my flyer. And I'm like, each day with Vipers, I cover like vocabulary on the Monday, inference on the Tuesday, all of those different skills on different days. Sorry, I'm just going to have to find this. Just give me a second while I look for it. Otherwise, what I'll do. Okay, 1 of 6. Let's just have a look here. These are here. Here we go. Okay, so look here. This is what I've done for my different lessons. This was actually only 4 because my first lesson was, you can also do a first lesson for free. This one was 4 consecutive weeks. I talk about the techniques that I go through. So parents might be quite familiar with some of these terms. And so knowing that those are things that I'm covering in my course also attracts them. Remember, it's also about your offer. Like, you don't want to just be vague and be like, hey, I'm going to help you with this exam. Like for me, I'm specifically outlining here what's going to be in my lessons. And I know it's a lot of information on a flyer, but I felt like they're familiar with these, and to go through some of these themes was quite important for my niche. So PEE technique, you can also extend that to peel or petal, Vipers, inference, prediction. The other thing is being able to talk to parents and saying to them, because a lot of them would give me a phone call, say like, let's chat quickly on Zoom or whatever. And I'll tell them like, kids don't understand these techniques. And these are really important techniques which will increase their score in the exam. So unless they know what these techniques are and are able to use them, they're not going to get the results. So I'm telling them like my method really of being like why I'm different as a teacher, why I'm able to definitely help them to get the marks that they're able to. And you need to think about that too. Like, I know that it's good to market yourself, but it's really good to be clear on how you're going to help your students and make sure that you are able to help your students. That's where testimonials come in as well. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to share with you as well how and where I post these. So I have got I've got lots of Facebook groups for my 11+ exam. And remember, 11+ is a British based exam. But what happens is a lot of Chinese parents or parents from Hong Kong, they are actually in these groups too, and they often reach out to me, and I've even arranged lessons in the Hong Kong or the Chinese time zones when I advertise in these groups, because the parents are in these groups because they're looking for, you know, being able to help their students. So let me just share with you grammar school entrance exams. All right, let's just look here. My content published. Okay, so these are the flyers that I've been doing. Whenever I start a course, I usually post like, this is what I'm doing. And that's year 2 and 3. This was my lead magnet, resources. This was a book club, and a book club I feel like is quite nice as well for holidays, because with book clubs, it's almost like more fun. Like, it's not like exam prep, like studying for exams. So sometimes it's a little bit more laid back, and also just learning like classical books. For me and my niche, that's really important, because a lot of the past papers use classical books, and there's a lot more vocabulary in there. So meet once a week for 5 weeks to read a classical book and enhance your skills in all of these different things. So again, I'm saying what I'm teaching in this short 5-week course. Okay, now I've talked about this small 5-week courses, either over small 5 consecutive days or 5 consecutive weeks. Now, I put this out there because it's minimum risk. So parents might see this and be like, okay, well, it's for 5 weeks, right? I can join. If I hate it, then I'll just leave. Or, you know, if I can't afford it, maybe I'll just join for 5 weeks. But what I try to do is I build relationships with people. This is like my lead magnet, really, is I build relationships with parents, I build relationships with kids in these 5 weeks. And then I give them the call to action to join one of my ongoing classes during the week. So that's my funnel. So when I'm talking about doing these small group classes, it is a lot more work with putting them together. Unless, I mean, for me, I've put these short courses together, I've got them now, so I just have to market myself for them. But it's like a lead magnet to attract people to kind of get used to me, for me to nurture them, to show them that I'm a good teacher, that I care about them, that I give them quality feedback, and then hopefully they join me for my ongoing lessons throughout the year. So some of these kids have been with me for like 3 years, which is wonderful. And now that I'm doing like year 2s and 3s, even, you know, if they start in year 2 and they do all the way up to 11 plus in year 5, you know, I'll be with them for years. Okay, so I have kind of unpacked just what I do. I'm sure you guys have got quite a few lessons. Here we go. This is a half-term course, a few questions. So let's get some questions in the chat. So this is a half-term course. I didn't only do one course, because what was happening is I was actually getting full of students, which was great. So then I was like, okay, well, let me do another course. Now I did it an hour afterwards. I had a 10-minute break, and some students joined for both courses back to back. So they would join me from 2 till 2:50. We would all have a 10-minute break, and then I'd do another course 10 minutes later after having a cup of tea, go to the restroom or whatever, get a snack. And you can see again here, I've got my my topics, and I end with a past paper, familiarizing yourself with the past paper, written past paper, multiple choice past paper. And with my creative writing, I'm saying what they're learning. So it's also like risk a little, it lowers the risk, because the expectation is like, okay, well, they are writing a story, they're doing descriptive writing, they're doing a picture prompt, they know what they're doing in the course. It's not just like mysterious of like, oh, what's going to be in there. It's a lot of information, but at least they know what it is. And again, I'm using the description to make sure that I'm explaining exactly what it is. Now, this one, I said spaces are limited to 6 students. And I found that like during the term time, like ideally for me, I like to have 4 students in a class. But in the holidays, if I'm getting more people inquiring, then I'll take up to 6. So that's quite nice, because and also I feel like in the holidays, and it's short courses, parents don't seem to mind as much having 6 kids in a class, which is quite nice. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Oh, look, there's even more. Here's all my book classes. So when I talk about like a book club, I choose one of these books. There we go. There's my Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia one. I choose a book and then I unpack themes in the book as they read it. So their homework is to read the book, which is quite nice because then I don't have to mark, but it's encouraging them to read, which is such an important skill for them to be, you know, preparing for the 11+ exams. In this one, I said sign up for one or multiple courses. Every lesson is different. So that's just something that I've done. Yeah. Okay. Let's go into some questions. Neil is asking, can Hong Kong access Facebook? Yes, they can. So Hong Kong is not exactly China, but a lot of parents are from Hong Kong that I've met. And in fact, Hong Kong, I would say culturally, as a British teacher, this is what I've found. A lot of Hong Kong parents love the British curriculum. They all want to send their kids to British schools. I mean, the schools that I'm preparing them for, you look at the pictures of the schools, 40% of the kids are Asian. So these grammar schools that are based in the UK with British education, a lot of Asian students have come across. And what they do is the parents put them either into boarding schools so they can board with the grammar school that they're going to, or literally as a whole family they immigrate so that their child can go to these 11+, these grammar schools. It's quite interesting. Press, do parents inquire about police clearances? I have found that sometimes they have. I have popped on there that I have got my DPS police check. I feel like in the UK it is a lot more important. And I also feel like if you've got it, in fact, you probably, especially if you're in the UK, because this is a UK based police check, like if you can get it, like it's good, because if anything had to happen, you know, at least you've got that to fall back on and be like, well, you know, I've done my best. And for me, I'm a qualified teacher, so I've done safeguarding. I even mention a little bit in the course every now and then, like when parents are like, hey, here's my child's phone number, you contact them and you chat with them. I'm like, no. You know, you've got to safeguard yourself. So sometimes I think I've had it a few times, but now I just put it on my flyer that I have got police clearance. Do people in Hong Kong and Taiwan use WeChat? I've had a student before in Taiwan who was on WeChat, yeah. And I think it was mainly like he was in a group class actually with a Chinese girl. So they had WeChat. I don't think it's like the most common app in Taiwan to use. It's a Chinese based app. And the same with Hong Kong. My parents in Hong Kong don't use WeChat. They mostly use Messenger. And in fact, that's why I use Messenger and Facebook, because I find most of my leads on Facebook. So then I just use Messenger for that. Yeah. Okay, Joe is saying, when you do a book course, do the kids have to buy the books? And how do you know which books to study? So the funny thing is about this, Joe, is I have chosen classical books because if the author has died more than like 60 or 70 years ago or something along those lines, the book becomes public domain. So there's no copyright issues on sharing the book. So I send my kids a PDF version of the book and I'm not breaching any copyright issues. So we study classical books for that reason. So like you saw some of the classical books that I do with my kids. Alice in Wonderland, Oliver Twist, The Railway Children, Black Beauty, Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, Swiss Family Robinson. So I'll use those books. And in fact, I'm going to show you my Google Drive now, which I use for my UK students and people who access it that way. They get a copy of the book and they get like vocabulary, they get like a vocabulary calendar that we do. They get a whole lot of extra other stuff. And then for each lesson, they'll also get like the lesson and if they want to do optional homework. So I put it all nicely in a Google Drive with my book so that they know where the book is. And you know what happens is parents will then most commonly, they'll either buy the book on Amazon because they can afford it, it's the easiest thing to do, or some parents will go to the library and rent out the hard book so that the kids are reading that book. Yeah, so that's typically what happens. But I provide the book because if they don't want to do either of those things, you know, then it's provided for them. Is it okay to have kid group classes with kids from different countries? Absolutely. Absolutely. This comes down to your niche and your target area. I personally am not able to coach you very well on how to find students in Japan or Saudi Arabia, for example, because I've never marketed myself there. And I haven't focused my marketing in those areas either. I know that there are some people who teach Middle Eastern countries in our group, so maybe you can just reach out in the VIP Facebook group and ask around. Yeah, and Japan, I mean, maybe you can talk to Katie because she lived in Japan for quite a while, even though her focus wasn't on China and Chinese students. You know, there's different apps for different countries. So on Facebook, you can find a lot of these groups, and that's why I've got a whole module on how to find students on Facebook. Because if you really wanted to focus on these different places, you probably could find them on Facebook groups, you know, expats even, or, you know, we could probably just Google it and like Facebook search them now. Is it okay to have them in the same group? So I would say I've done classes with different cultures, and for the most part, it's usually okay. I would say that there's a little bit of cultural tension between China as a country and Taiwan, and to an extent Hong Kong. So although I had one group with a student from Taiwan and a student from China, they didn't seem to mind. I've taught adults before, and I even thought, oh, it would be a great idea to have like adults learning together, or whatever. It just didn't happen. Like there was a lot of cultural ickiness. And in fact, I taught, you know, in GU, I saw a cultural lesson based on like Taiwan and China, and I tried to teach it to a group of adults. I got a lot of kick. I didn't understand the cultural issues between those countries, and they were all upset at me. So you live and learn. So I would say for my 11 plus students, I've had Hong Kong kids learning with British kids, and even when I say British kids, they are from all over the place. You know, I think of the one class I had a Ukrainian boy learning. I had a boy, Sam from China. I've had kids from all over the place, British kids, and then Inara, she was like from a Muslim background but living in the UK, but you know, like all sorts of kids. And I think, you know, if you're focused on the UK, there's a lot of multicultural people there. But I think if you're focused on like the Chinese market and you try and mix and match with Chinese based students, there's a lot of tension with the surrounding countries that I don't understand fully, but I know that sometimes that's an issue. Okay, Cece, you inherited a lot of students from the Middle East from my previous job. Okay, so I teach them, but I've never marketed to them. So Cece, you can ask them, see if you can have a great conversation with a mum and just ask, how would I go about, like, what's the apps that you use that I could tap into? The other thing is just like, obviously for you, Cece, you really need to tap into referral marketing and get your referrals going. Because if you've got one student in one area and they can tell their friends about you, you know, you can try and use them to help grow your business in that area. But yeah, you can ask them what would be a good app to use. Okay, Nisha's asking a question about my group classes. How many minutes are the classes? This can be totally up to you. My 11 plus classes are 50 minutes long. I find that my students are like in year 4 and 5. You know, by the time it's like 45 minutes, we're all ready to wrap up and go home. And to be honest, the last 5 minutes, I usually do something like a vocabulary-based game or whatever. But like I choose to make my lessons 50 minutes each. And in fact, you could see that in one of the previous ones when I had a 10-minute break. So there we go, 2 to 2:50, 10 minutes. I would say I have used Reading Explorer before, and their lessons are too long to be 50 minutes. So I have I've taught them for longer. So yeah, you can it depends on the curriculum and how long the curriculum is. You might find for your niche, if you're looking at a specific curriculum and it takes you longer than 50 minutes, like you can do that. The reason that I've decided to start on the hour and then have it for 50 minutes is because it just makes it easier for me to think, okay, everything starts on the hour, and those last 10 minutes I get to have a break before my next class. So that's why I've just decided to keep it 50 minutes for me. Okay, see, oh, let's look here. I've got this one here. Let's see, I've got my book club courses, and then I've actually got my other ones. So
Needs to be internal service. Easy to get these like long easy units like well like this. Thank you.
sorry. Okay, so when I posted this one, I decided to post all of my different flyers too. So this is my foundations course, my group lessons. These are my ongoing group lessons. So they can see that I have a holiday course, but I also have ongoing lessons. And again, that's all about branding and messaging and making sure that they understand fully what your services are about. This is my comprehension one. Okay, that's all of them. Okay. Different one. Okay, here's another one, my creative writing one. So this was half-term course, and it was each day. To be honest, this is a shocking one because I don't say what time it is. Maybe I put it in when I wrote about it. But this is from years and years ago. But it's this is just saying again, showing you what we're doing and some of the things that I'm teaching them in each class. Yeah, from years ago now. All right, any questions?
Jess, I
Yeah.
just wanted to ask about the Chinese holidays. You said, so I know the Chinese New Year is just finished.
Yeah.
And then there's the summer holidays, which they'll generally take more classes. What are the other holidays for, like, generally are good for these kinds of courses?
Okay, I'll just have to Google it. Chinese school holidays. So here we go. March 8, Spring Festival. School holidays. I'd just look. The other thing is look here, sometimes depending, and it's the same in England, depending on what part of the country, they might have different holidays. I actually hate it in England when it's like 3 weeks of holidays, but only half of the country got the first 2 weeks and half of the country got the second 2 weeks, in which case it's quite good for that middle week where they're all on holiday to focus your course during that time. So it's a good question because logistically you've got to think about this. Chinese school holidays. So you can see here. Okay, it looks like you'd have to.
Yeah.
You'd have to maybe look. Sorry, I mean, to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head because every year it's different, isn't it? So the winter holidays. There we go. The 8th of July is when it starts there, and it finishes the 31st of August. Yeah. So that's Beijing. Yeah, and remember, I think if it's a long way away, you could do maybe, if you're happy to do Saturdays, I feel like that's also quite a nice time to do like a short course, like 5 consecutive courses. But I mean, you can do it at any time. I would say, like, I mean, I've always found Thursday a good day. It always fills up quickly. It also just depends on your availability. Like if you are not available and then it's really hard. Like then doing it over a school holiday is better because obviously you're more available there, more available, and you've got the extra time to put into that.
So for Thursday, are you saying like you could do a weekly consecutive course on a Thursday at this time, like for 4 weeks or 5 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, if it's far away, then instead of doing 5 consecutive lessons in a week because there's no school holidays coming up, start it where you're saying, okay, I'm starting a 5-week course specifically for X, Y, and Z, like whatever it is that you're serving your niche with. I
Yeah.
wanted to show you one of them, like my one that did really well recently is when I said what I specifically am aiming to do, which was increase their comprehension level to 80%. Let me just see where that is. And I found that that one did really well. Here, my comprehension course. So when I was advertising my course, I was touching on the pain point of I found that an area which students struggle the most in is comprehension. So I'm doing a 4-week comprehension course with the focus on teaching the core skills that are needed for students to go from a 60% to an 80% or more. And then I highlight on the flyer the skills that I'm touching on. Because it's not like with vocabulary, it's really hard to learn vocabulary quickly. I've got some tips and tricks up my sleeve that I help them with. But with comprehension, like if they can understand these techniques and use them in an exam, it really can improve their score drastically. And I can do it in 4 weeks, short and sweet. So I found that this one really did well because I was explaining as well what my results were going to be for the student. And I think if you're doing an exam-based niche, that's really good. So I mean, for Neil, I think you mentioned, you know, reading and listening. So you could say, I feel like an area that students really struggle in with listening skills is that they are not implementing, you know, the correct tips to be able to listen effectively. I'm going to do a 4-week course focusing on the study tips to help you with your listening skills so that you can increase your band score by at least, you know, 1 point or 1 band or whatever. Yeah. So I think that one was very effective. I filled this class up quite quickly. In fact, I continually taught this class. I want to show you quickly what this looks like for me with where I store my curriculum and how I find my curriculum. Because for you guys, finding curriculum for a 4-week or a 5-week short course, it's quite important to know how to put that together. So let me just find it, my folders here. So these are my 11+ courses. You can see all of the courses that I've put together. So these are short courses, typically of 5 weeks. And another reason why I do 5-week courses, I do it for the school holidays, but when I'm teaching on an ongoing basis, I just teach them back to back. So if you go to my Strikingly website, you'll see all of these short courses that I've created are just taught back to back. I'm just going to show you my website that I send people to. So this is my curriculum overview. I've got creative writing course, comprehension course, SPAG, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. Then I repeat it. So creative writing is such a big one. So I do creative writing course 2, comprehension course 2, creative writing course 3. So I've created all of these courses. And so if I'm doing like an ongoing course, I can just teach these back to back to back as well. But yeah, let me just show you what this looks like. This is a comprehension course. So you can see I've got 5 lessons here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully you can all see it. So I would basically add a parent to this drive or send them the link. And then they know for the first lesson, this is what I cover. So I've got Oliver Twist comprehension. Sorry, I think it's in the other folder where the book is. Where's my book? When they join, I actually usually send them the book and everything in an email. I'm just looking for it here. Anyway, okay. So this is what I typically do. I'll do a comprehension and then I'll list my lesson resources in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got a homework task. Let me just see. In my Vipers lesson, 1, 2, 3, and I've even got an email there. Now I do it all automatically, but this is the email that I just copy and paste with my Zoom link, with the link to the Google Drive. So it was all saving me time. Now I just automate that with ManyChat. Okay, I'm just showing you my creative writing one. I feel like that's a bit tidier. Creative writing course, here we go. So this is day 1 through day 5. So my first day, I've got literary devices, lesson. And I've got all of these that I go through. And parents really like that I send them all these resources. So I do use a lot of Twinkle for my resources because it also, there's no copyright. I'm allowed to share those, which is quite nice. Here's a book club, an Oliver Twist book club. So here we go. There's the book that goes with the book club. A book review and then vocabulary that goes with it. So really, I'm just trying to put all of this stuff together. I email them the links as well. It's so easy this way to just be like, hey, here's the link, copy, paste. That's all of your lesson resources, right? So this is what I do specifically for my 11+ exams. If you are, and this is for short courses, and for my 11+, I usually do short courses back to back. With my students in China, I'm typically using like courses like the Reading Explorer course, or I've got my Reach Higher course, and they're like longer ones. And then I'm doing like a trial lesson at the beginning of like my Reading Explorer if I'm doing like big group classes. So I'm sorry if it's a bit confusing. I have 2 different like niches and 2 different time zones. So I'm just explaining like the ideas of what I do to find students to fill group classes. Let's have a look in the chat. Okay, Neil, this is making sense for you. Good. So because I sometimes feel like I confuse people with going from my UK students to my Chinese students and how I kind of work differently. Joe, do I have lesson plans that I can share? Yeah, message me afterwards, Joe, and I'll send you a link for some of those lesson plans. I'm happy to do that. Okay. Neil, can this be done for Key Stage 2 children? Absolutely. I mean, that's my, if you're doing like I think Key Stage 2, how old is that, Neil? Key Stage 2 is year 3 and 4 or year 2 and 3? I'm trying to remember now. 7 to 11, yeah. Yeah, so I'm doing it for the 11+. Neil, if you didn't want to do like the 11+ exams, you could do it for like the SATs exams, which you have to write in year 6. That could be quite a nice niche, and there's people who help with SATs. Yeah, or even just like if you're focusing on a specific like reading, comprehension, creative writing, all of them are niches in themselves. You know what I've got? Let me see. I've got my trial class. Let me see if I can get my trial class folder. Let me just look for it, trial class. No. See if I can send you this link and I'll pop it in there. No. I'm sorry. I'm trying to find something on the fly, being totally unorganized. You know what? It's in my website. So here's my website. I've got a trial class link here. Where is it? Just to show parents what it looks like. Here we go. I'll send this to you. So this is my trial class. And this, to be honest, I used to teach one-on-ones before groups. So it was a lot easier to do it there. And now like I like to do, so this is my creative writing one, curriculum, reading, vocabulary. I'm just going to share this with you. And again, this can be quite nice as a lead magnet to show how I organize myself and the extra value that people get from my lessons. So there you go, you can read that. I'll put it in the chat. All right, let's have a look. When you say SATs, are you referring to, oh, okay, so Tatiana, SATs, I'm trying to think, I think America also has SATs. Tatiana, what age do kids write SATs in America?
Well,
I think it's different. Yeah?
Well, the SATs are for high schoolers going into college.
Yeah, I know it's different. Sorry. So this is
Okay.
for the UK. You can see UK SATs
Ah,
papers.
Okay,
It's a UK exam.
got it.
So that's a UK thing for when they're in year 6. Yeah, and you've even got 11 plus papers there. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, anything else? For group classes, do you do trial classes? So, okay, this is what I was asked, and this is, I actually wanted to go through some of these questions. When I became an independent teacher, I started doing a lot of one-on-ones, right? So my journey went from working for a company earning $20 an hour to then teaching one-on-ones. And my one-on-one classes, you know, I think I started teaching £25 and then it went up and up. And then like for the Chinese market, I went straight into, in fact, I think I overpriced myself because someone in China advised me how much I should charge. So I think I charged like £60 initially, and I got a few students, but most students were like, no, that's overpriced. So then I kind of settled on £50. And so I did a lot of one-on-ones, or like if I had like 2 in a class, I would split the price or add a little bit more. So £60 divided by 2 is about £30 each. So that's what I did initially with my one-on-ones or small group classes with 2. So if you're looking just for baby steps and you're just looking to leave your company and get some sort of decent compensation for being a private teacher and doing that one-on-one, you know, you can do that as like your middle step. So you can fill your schedule with one-on-one students who are paying you more money, you're getting into the groove of things. The issue is when you want to get to being a group class, you know, you've got to brand yourself as a group class teacher. And that's why I go through branding, because all of these flyers, I've branded myself. I've said, this is group class, right? I've said 4 in a group or 6 in a group, group classes. Now look here, this is what I used to do. Inquire for available times for one-on-one or group classes. But then when my schedule was full and I realized how much more money I could make as a group class teacher, I took that off. So now I'm like really focused mostly on group classes. The only exception for that is like some of my students might need a one-on-one, in which case it's still like £50 an hour. And I'm literally doing it because I know that I want to spend that time with them, getting into the nitty-gritty. With group classes, I would say, you know, I always try to give positive criticism, like constructive criticism, but I do it very softly, because when you criticize someone, even if it's constructive criticism in front of a group, you know, it can be difficult for a young person to take. So with my one-on-ones, I might message the mum and say, listen, I feel like we should just do a one-on-one looking at her creative writing. I would get them to write out a piece and I'd literally go through it with them. And I'd help them to figure out and do some self-marking as well. And I'd be like, what have you done wrong here? And how can we improve this and whatever? But I would give a lot of constructive criticism in my one-on-ones. But typically now I focus on group lessons because it's so much more profitable. Okay. All right. Neil was saying, thanks for this. I've got to go. And to be honest, my kids have just also come in and my husband's got a meeting just now too. My kids are off from school today. So listen, I've got a few more questions. Let me just see. I think I've got one more question here. How would you handle a student in a long-term group class for ESL lessons and they're not keeping up with the rest of the class? Yeah, Angie, I think for me, it just depends. Like with a group class, if the parent's paying and the parent is happy, I want to keep them happy because ultimately I'm serving the parent. I usually will convey to them like, okay, so-and-so is struggling in this area or that area, and I'd maybe give them some recommendations. So I mean, some of my kids, like they're just so shy and they don't like to speak. So I'll say, why don't, when they read a book, read it out loud. Or I'll give them some exercises to talk or whatever, to do dialogue at home. So sometimes I'll give them some extra homework to practice those little things. But I also don't want to lose customers by being like, you know, they have fallen behind so badly and it's just not working anymore. I've sometimes shuffled kids around. Like I've sometimes talked to the parent and said, hey, I've actually feel like there's another student looking for a class, and I feel like your son or daughter would be a better match with this student. Could we try it for 1 week as a trial class and see how it goes? But I've had parents who are in the class and it's easy for them, and or they're friends with the other parent and they don't want to split up and they don't want to change. So then if they don't want to change, you know, I won't force it, because also it's like they're paying me and I'm making money from them. So I don't want to tell them this isn't working. I have to try and make it work. Okay, it is 9:55. I do have to go. Last thing, Christine, can you keep all the webinar content in the subsequent recordings, please? So yes, this is going to be uploaded into the February replays. Okay, and then after February or after a few weeks or whatever, I will put it into the group class module because it's a lesson relating to group classes. Okay, otherwise we're just going to have one folder of all these replays of all these random different things. So that's why I'm taking all the replays and I'm putting them into the relevant groups. Okay. Okay, I wish I could stay and help longer. But listen, if you've got any questions, pop them in the VIP group chat. I didn't actually answer the ones that people wrote on Friday. Friday is typically my day off. And then I knew that we were doing this on Monday. So I wanted to kind of go through this with you, but I would say if you haven't gone through all of the lessons in module 8, which is relating to group classes, especially branding yourself as a group class teacher, I think that's also important. Then go for that. And it's not terrible if you want to do one-on-ones and group classes. I still have like one student who's my one-on-one, Krista. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up, but I wouldn't fill up all of your schedule with one-on-ones and then it's impossible to start a group class. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait for the holidays to do it because you won't have time to teach. Okay, awesome, everyone. Thanks so much for coming today. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, we'll connect in the VIP room. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Cheers, cheers. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely day. Cheers, cheers,
You too.
cheers. Cheers. Bye, 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 bye.